Welcome everyone to tonight's county board meeting. I'd like to call the Livingston County August 17th board meeting to order. And with that, I would invite Pastor Jan Ambrose from the Judah Ministries to please come forward for the invocation.
Good evening, board. Let's bow our
Good
heads
evening.
and pray. Father, in your word in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 14, seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our profession, for we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but we in all have been tempted just as he, yet he was tempted without sin. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Heavenly Father, we come to you in Jesus' name, and we give you all the honor and all the praise and all the glory this evening in this place. Father, I lift up this county, Livingston, to you. I pray for your Holy Spirit to move in this place with your almighty power now. I humbly ask that your perfect will be done through each member of this board tonight. The needs in this county are great, but you, Father, are greater. I believe that, and I thank you in advance for a blessed manifestation of mercy from your throne of grace. Amen.
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 Thank you very much, Pastor Ambrose. Now if you'd rise and join Mr. Holt in the Pledge of Allegiance. May I please have roll call?
Vietti. Yes. Bunning.
Present.
Flagel.
Present.
Ingalls. Steichen.
Here.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian. Kestner.
Present.
Ritter.
Present.
Gerwin.
Here.
Lovell.
Present.
Allen. Here. Arbogast. Here. Weller. Here. Gimbel.
Here.
Carley. Present. Holt.
Here.
Runyon. Mays.
Here.
Heath.
Here.
Weber. Here. Young.
Here.
Yoder. Here. Fannin.
Now, I hope you've had a chance to look at the agenda, and with that, I'd ask for an approval of the agenda. It looks like Ritter and Arbogast. All those in favor, aye?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Now, approval of the minutes. I hope you had a chance to look them over, and I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Holt and Ingalls. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, we're down to the consent agenda. With approval of the bills and the appointments, Bob McCarty, Mental Health Board, Rose Smith, Mental Health, Debbie Studnicki, Mental Health, Mark Donahue, Mental Health, Steve Tock, Mental Health, Jack Vietti, Mental Health, Ed Leitner, Mental Health Board, and Vicki Day, Mental Health Board. Can I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Bunning? Ritter, second. All those in favor? No, we got to have roll call on that.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Vietti.
Yes.
Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner. Ritter.
Yes.
Gerwin.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Arbogast.
Yes.
Weller. Gimbel.
Yes.
Carley.
Yes.
Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder. Fannin.
Okay, with that, we'll get right into the committee report. And first up is Mr. Bunning, Highway Committee.
All righty, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one action item for you folks tonight. Fayette Road District replacing an existing culverts at 100 North, 2922 East Road. Clay's here if you have any questions. If not, I move it.
Motion by Bunning to approve, second by Weller. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Oh,
Roll
got a
call.
roll call then, I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Beatty. Yes. Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter. Gerwin.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Arbogast.
Yes.
Weller.
Yes.
Gimbel.
Yes.
Carly. Yes. Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Yoder. Yes. Fannin.
Yep.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bunning. We'll move on to Finance Committee. Tim Schaefer, the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, for your consideration tonight, I know we've been provided some additional information regarding a TIF agreement between ourselves, the city of Streeter, and a lot of other taxing districts up around South Streeter, and our project that, or lack of project from prior years of the Smith-Douglas area. And I believe we're favored with the presence of the Streeter City Manager. Could you give us any enlightenment on that, just from your perspective, if you'd be so kind? That's the hazards of showing up in person.
Thank you for asking me to come, and thank you for considering this item at your Finance
absolutely.
Committee. The intergovernmental agreement is an agreement between, I think, 18 units of local government, 8 of them in Livingston County, 8 of them in LaSalle County, and 2 of them which straddle both Livingston and LaSalle counties. And one of the 2 TIF districts that we have is mostly in Livingston County. The other one is entirely in LaSalle County, but the terms and conditions of the agreements are the same. And as you have correctly noted, the one that's in Livingston County does include the Smith-Douglas site. So we're hoping that this tax increment financing district can be one of several economic development tools that we can use going forward to try to remediate that property that's been largely abandoned for 30 years. The essence of the agreement, if you want me to, to go into that just in 25.
Just a little bit.
Okay, 25 words or less. Basically is that increments in the real estate value that would flow to the TIF will be shared with all the taxing bodies based on their percentage of the levy, up to 51%, unless it is one of the parcels that is identified in the agreement as a targeted parcel, and if there is a specific redevelopment agreement with a specific developer.
Gotcha.
So we have to actually have a developer in hand to take full advantage of the 100% TIF. Otherwise, something that might grow naturally in the tax base would be shared with everybody based on their percentage of the levy.
No, well, thank
that
you
short
so
enough?
much. Very much. Thank you. And we endorsed this at the Finance Committee, and Mr. Chairman, I'd motion it be approved here.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second on it?
Second.
Fannin, second. Discussion?
I have a question for you. Is Streeter assuming the responsibility for anybody who goes beyond the fence?
You're talking about the Smith-Douglas property now, right? Not
Smith-Douglas.
Yeah, specifically Smith-Douglas. What we have worked out is we have, because we've done a phase 1 and updated the phase 1 and had a lot of good dialogue with US EPA, and because we're not involved in the title or any of the contamination that historically happened at the site, the city of Streeter and Livingston County, based on an agreement we have with you folks from last year, will have no liability for any of the environmental problems out there. That was rule number 1 for moving forward, is that neither of our governing bodies would have any liability because it's a serious problem out there. You are correct that at some point we may be more concerned that that somebody flips their ATV out there and claim like that. We are still working to perfect the title. That's covered by a separate agreement we have with Livingston County, which is moving its way forward with your administrative staff, and it should be hopefully get wrapped up in the next couple of months. Once we perfect title, we're going to have to secure it against that kind of liability.
Mrs. Gerwin, I think you had your hand up.
So you have no developer, no concrete plans right now, correct?
We have been, even though we haven't perfected title yet, which certainly limits our ability to execute development agreements, we have had some discussions with potential developers, but that's all it is so far. It's a tough site.
But this makes it a lot more, it would appear to be a lot more likely with this agreement in hand that you would spur some interest.
Absolutely.
Fair to
I mean,
characterize, okay.
You
Right.
all know that the TIF is a
Right.
very effective device for getting economic development, particularly on brownfield sites.
Yep.
And then this lasts 23 years, right?
Yep, yes.
The TIF agreement lasts for 23 years, yes.
And
Mr.
do we-
Yoder, you have...
Actually, the agreement that you are acting on doesn't last for 23 years. It lasts for the balance of the TIF. The TIF was created in April of 2016, which is the beginning of the 23 years.
Okay.
Mr. Yoder?
I'm sorry, I'm not very up on my legalese today. Carolyn probably knows all those words, but perfect title, does that mean we don't know who owns it right now, and you're trying to get ownership?
No, you probably know who owns it, but there are probably some defects, i.e. liens and this, that, and the other thing, that probably go way, way back, and the people are probably all defunct, and nobody really cares, but the title company is going to issue a clean title without those being addressed in some fashion. So it
To
takes-
whom?
But you are right to chastise me in using that terminology.
No, that's okay.
We have an agreement with you about how we will acquire it through what amounts to a tax scavenger sale. We don't completely own it yet.
So then, what you're saying is the city of Streeter will own that property?
When this process is complete,
That's right.
yes.
When there's a perfect title?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Killian.
I guess I have a question on the EPA and stuff, kind of familiar with that area. Has there been any EPA test, and or is that coming down the road? And if that does show up to be a real concern, how would that affect Streeter and/or Livingston County?
The last time any governmental environmental agency did any serious examination of the Smith-Douglas site was around 2003, when the Illinois EPA spent some time and money on the site. We have that complete file. The site is, as some of you I'm sure know, it's gypsum. There's no radioactivity, there's no heavy metals there. It's got a really high alkalinity as a result of that, and that's these huge piles of this gypsum waste is what creates the hazard. And its volume, not so much that it's hazard, its volume of it is what makes it a fairly difficult restoration. So, but what I mentioned earlier is worth repeating. We don't have any liability for the environmental issues out there.
Okay, any other questions before we call for it? Okay, could we roll call vote that, please?
Fieri. Yeah. Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Dyson.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner. Ritter.
Yes.
Derwin.
No.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Arbogast.
Yes.
Weller. Gimbel.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder. Yes. Fannin.
Yes.
Thank you,
Okay.
Commissioners.
Thank you
I
so much for
appreciate
coming.
it.
Thank you.
No, very much. Next, we have a request to apply some of the funds that we'd set aside in our budget for a GLC EDC project and a STEM project with the Area Vocational Center. Adam, you got any commentary on that? And I thank you. I thank you, Tara. Tara runs the local center, so graciously agreed to come with Adam.
She does. Introduction of Tara Graves, the director of the Livingston Area Career Center. We have been working with the LACC and Tara, along with a number of other districts that we've come before, and the county has approved funds. At the Finance Committee meeting, we had an approval of a request for $24,550. If the board recalls, it made a grant some years back for welding equipment, so this keeps in some of the same spirit and tradition of previously approved requests. The funds this time will be used for 3D printers, CNC machines, shear brake roll, lathes, calipers, etc. They are expanding the welding program to broaden its scope and include manufacturing. We're having conversations with a number of area manufacturers about course content and the like, and I think the LACC has done a very nice job of that. So, Tara, if you have any remarks to add.
This is just a request. The request for the equipment is based, as Adam said, on those conversations of making sure that we're staying current with the business and industry that is in this area. So the request for this equipment would just help us move to stay current with the equipment and provide access to our students that come to us from the 6 high schools in the area.
Yeah, and a lot of it's a function of feedback that you've gotten with the employers that you work with.
Yes.
True, right? I mean,
Correct.
you didn't just come up with this on your own. You're getting told, we really need people who have worked with this stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
The welding and manufacturing is the biggest example of that. We have a welding program and have tried to get more of, years ago, if any of you remember, the Career Center did have a manufacturing class that did close. We're really trying to get that back, and part of that is get this equipment in there, get those students familiar with it, partner with Caterpillar, some of those local businesses, to try really finding out what they need in a workforce and use the equipment to meet that need.
Thanks.
Wait a
Mr.
minute.
Ritter.
Do we have a, let's go ahead and get a
Okay.
motion.
Sounds cool. I'll motion that we grant that request.
Mike Ingalls will second. Now, is there discussion?
Paul?
I would just like to add that while I do not work at the Livingston Area Career Center or work with them, I do know firsthand, being that I am able to see their educators and what they're doing, I can tell you firsthand, each of these people that work there are cutting edge in their own discipline, and having the appropriate tools to do so will allow their students, I feel, quite readily to meet the demands that are out there from our various industry. And so, like I said, I'm kind of on the outside to see firsthand what her teachers and educators do, and without a doubt there is a need. That said, each of them, if fulfilled, they're cutting edge instructors, and they do what it takes to get kids the best education.
No, anyone else? Mr. Weller?
Tara, you mentioned 6 high schools. How many high school kids from each school are actually participating in this program?
In the programs, we have all 6 high schools participate in the Career Center now. So
Good.
for some years, we had high schools that were not sending students. We've got them all back.
Good.
And we're growing those numbers. So some of the schools with finances just were not able, because we are a tuition-based organization, so they were not able, but we now have all of the schools in the county attending the center, so.
Good. And can I do a follow-up question, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
We did the, what was it called, Principles of Modern Manufacturing?
Mm-hmm.
Will this cross over with that? I mean, if we're getting this equipment to be used, does it serve dual purpose, and it would be used in that curriculum as well?
Yes, that's a great question.
Good.
All of these programs that this equipment will go into are dual credited with Heartland Community College. And many of our students, for example, the welding program, they can come out with between 12 and 18 college credits. And my instructor also is an adjunct professor for Heartland, so she knows their equipment also. What we have found is that some of our students, focusing more on the welding, that isn't the area that they want to go into. So what we're really trying to do is build this equipment in to do an entry-level class of welding and manufacturing, and then branch it out to more of an interest for those students, because those are very different skill levels for those students.
But it's not just for the high school students, it's also for some of those people that have gone through your program. They were employed elsewhere, or some of them were unemployed because they lost their jobs, they were retrained, but they're going to be able to use this equipment too?
Those are 2 separate programs.
I know, but does the equipment get used in both programs?
The equipment that has run through the fundamentals of modern manufacturing has been supplied by either ISU in their robotics lab or at Heartland College at their lab on their campus in Norman. We will explore utilizing both on a going forward basis.
Yeah, the more use we can get out, that's where I'm going. The more use we can get out of it, if it serves dual purpose and can serve the modern manufacturing class as well as the career center class, I think it's great.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Yoder.
It would be one lathe. There are 2 3D printers being requested because we currently have one. And the example I gave earlier was the CNA class worked with the engineering class to design the human heart. They had to, but it took 22 hours to print. So by having more, so it's requesting 2 more 3D printers, 2 CNC machines. I'm gonna have to test several calipers because we do not have, so that's classroom, those aren't very expensive. The one drill, go ahead, I'm sorry, I hear it, yes. It is a shear, break, and roll machine all in one, and a mill and drill lathe in one. So one of those pieces of equipment, our shop is not huge, so what we're trying to do is get it in, make sure we really know how to use it, bring in some resources, and then potentially add more equipment as we move forward. All of that equipment years ago was gotten rid of, so we're trying to build that back up. Anytime. We love guests.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Ritter?
Mrs. Graves, could you maybe give me a little background on Raspberry Pi? And the reason it's a module, is it not? Can you give me any extra information on that? And what class that's being used in?
I could give you my limited knowledge that I have professionals that know this. So a Raspberry Pi, in the request is 30 Raspberry Pis, which is not the kind you eat. They are a device that students can program, and then it's 30 kits to go along with them. So for example, we had a student that wanted to test atmospheric pressure, and I'm actually going, it was a cross curriculum with science, and so they had to program the Raspberry Pi for a certain height and altitude, and then when it came, they had to do the programming part of this Raspberry Pi. I'm going to tell you, that's why I have Mr. Mashing, who does Cisco, and he does the computer networking and maintenance, and he is the expert in this field, but it's being utilized all over the industry now, and so students having access to be able to learn how to program them, how to run them, how to build them. They actually, it's a very small little thing, and it's the piece of equipment they are the most excited about.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, let's roll call vote it, please.
Vieti. Yes. Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Gerwin.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Arbogast.
Yes.
Weller. Yes. Gimbel.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Holt.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder. Fannin.
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Tara and Adam, very much. Very kind. Next on our list, we have Shelley. Could you care to make some remarks about a contract with an appraiser, commercial appraiser? Trying to get our assessments, which have try to keep assessments up to date, but we've noticed that there's been a particular category of property that has not been reassessed for many years.
Sure. So in a continuing effort to make sure all of our assessments in our county are equitable, I put in a request to have our grain elevators looked at. It's been some time since they were done completely, And I think it's a good time to get that done and have them all looked at the same time. That being said, grain elevators are very unique and very specialized type of property, and therefore it's necessary to have the knowledge and the expertise to value that type of property, which is above my expertise. So I have put in a request to have Vanguard Appraisals, who is our software company, come in and do that project for us. They are out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and they do these types of projects in Illinois and Iowa, Missouri, and I think they have some clients in South Dakota or North Dakota. I can't remember which one. They just did a project like this in Moultrie County and what's the other one? Sorry, excuse me. I have this written down. Can't remember what other county they did it in. Douglas. In Douglas County, they just did it last year. So we have 33 different elevator sites in our county, and it includes 71 different parcels within those. They would come in starting in February of 2019 to start that project. The reason it's so far out is they book up so fast. That's why I'm coming to you with the contract now, so we can get on their books so that they can start it in 19. And then hopefully they will have it finished by October of 19, so it will go on the assessment rules for 19, page 20.
And this was last done on a relatively comprehensive basis in the early 90s,
Correct.
so about 20-some years ago.
Right. I mean, they're updated, like if they build something new and that's put on the tax rolls and that type of thing, but a complete reassessment of
Right.
it hasn't been done since the 90s.
Gotcha. And that's the way this contract reads. We don't have to absorb the entire cost of that in this next fiscal year. We can pay this in stages.
Correct.
Right. Thank you.
And they will allow me to be involved with it so I can get the training that I need going forward as well.
And there is a payback to it, too.
Yes.
I mean, we hope in a couple of years.
I foresee it paying for itself within a year or two, very easily.
Right.
Okay, motion.
Motion to approve, sir.
We've got a motion by Schaefer, second by Ritter. Discussion.
Question?
Weller?
So, Tim, are you running this through 2 different budget years then? Partial in one year, partial in
Right,
the
and
next?
with the
or-
payment of it, yeah. We'll
Is
go
that the way
through
you're
to
running it?
Yes, yes, sir.
Very good.
Okay, Mrs. Gerl, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I have a couple of different aspects to talk about. One is, when I read the contract, I thought that the 58.5 covered the defense if there are appeals, but it doesn't, does it? Those are going to be billed separately at
$50 an hour.
$150 an hour, right?
The contract is for $72,000 to have the complete project done. They asked me to leave a little cushion in there in case they have to come here. They do phone interviews with all of the owners of the elevators once they send out their preliminary decision, so that they have time to discuss it with them, ask questions, try to deal with any issues ahead of it going to the Board of Review. And then if they do file any appeals with the Board of Review, they will come back and do that. That's why the request is for $75,000 instead of $72,000, so there's a little cushion in there in case we do get billed extra hours for them to come here.
Do you have any information on kind of what their rate of appeal is? Have they been successfully defending these things in the other states and other counties?
They've not had any go to court.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Mr. Fannin?
This is for 2018 payable 2019 or 2019 payable 2020?
19 pay 20.
19 pay 20?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Mr. Weller?
They actually do personal on-site inspections though, don't they?
Absolutely. They will come here, they will inspect every structure on the facility, they will pull all of our records, and they will go through everything with the site manager before they do it. And they also do their own sales analysis to see what's selling in the state too.
In case it's an absentee owner, that's where the telephone interviews come in after the fact?
Correct. And so that they can go over everything after they've accumulated all the data.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Fieri,
Yes.
Bunning,
Yes.
Slagle,
Yes.
Ingalls,
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Gerwin,
Yes.
Lovell,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Arbogast.
Yes.
Weller, Gimbel,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Holt,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Heath,
Yes.
Weber, Young,
Yes.
Yoder, Fannin.
Yes.
Go ahead, yeah. You want to say anything?
Did you want me to update you on the change detection, or not now?
Pardon?
Did you want an update on the change detection? You had mentioned that to me, or do you want that later?
Go ahead.
Okay, you tell me. Mr. Young had asked me for an update on the change detection project that we were working on, and up until a couple months ago, most of our assessors were working on picking up new construction building permits, and so they haven't really gotten really into it that much. But they have been turning in things since then. We've processed 200 changes that were on their list so far, which equates to about 10% of the total project. We found quite a few demolished buildings that have been taken off the tax rolls. However, to date, keep in mind this is only 10%, we've already collected $520,000 in new EAV. So,
Good work.
Do EAV?
I think
Good
it's
work.
a good project.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Sean.
Okay.
Very much, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Last item of business, Mr. Chairman, Circuit Clerk's part of our normal duties, Circuit Clerk semi-annual report. Leanne, want to present that, and any remarks you may have in that regard? Thank you so much.
Basically, it's the same report you've seen every 6 months. Not a whole lot of changes. It's been pretty constant, except for document storage and court automation. You raised the resolution on that. The court automation was at $5, and it was raised to $20. And the document storage, we were charging $3, and that was raised to $15. Made a big difference. This last 6 months, in the court automation, we collected $14,722 more. And in the document storage, it was $13,072 more than the previous month. So it made a big difference in those funds.
Other than that, fines were up, right, locally?
Yeah. And it
Traffic
makes a difference. I mean,
traffic
we could
fines
collect more
were
if people
substantially-
paid their
Yes.
fines and costs. But the court automation and document storage is one of the first costs that we take when anybody pays. That's
Neat,
the first ones that we collect, so.
good. Wide motion, the clerk's report be approved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Holt, discussion for Leanne? Okay, could we roll call that, please?
Piety. Yes. Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian. Yes. Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Gerwin. Lovell.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Arbogast.
Yes.
Weller. Kimball.
Yes.
Carly. Yes. Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder. Fannin.
Yes.
Leanne, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's time to move on.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. You did pretty well, though. Didn't take too bad for all the items you had. Now we go to the Ag and Zoning Committee report from Mr. Holt, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At our meeting, we discussed we had a solid waste report, which Chuck filled us in on. We discussed the Illinois noxious weed law, also the all hazard mitigation plan. And these plans we're waiting on the state to come through with a plan. Then we will analyze that, and we will then move on our recommendation. I don't know if we had a spiller pays ordinance, which we discussed, and the idea of that is that if someone has a spill, that they cover the cost of that cleanup, any other expenses that are associated with the spill. we have no action items, and that was the extent of our meeting, unless you want me to go into any of the problems that we had with over Woodland or Row or...
You're up.
Okay. Well, we had said complaints over to Row about some automobiles, or junk vehicles, I should say, parked in a yard over there. We visited them, and we visited them both through Chuck sending a letter and physically going there. And we've got the cars out of there, and I don't know what the guy's last name is, but he has a business there, has a property there. Hermie talked to us, and he was very pleased.
Hermie Schmidt.
Hermie Schmidt. Very pleased with the results. I also, on a trip to over to Winona, they went by the property. We call it the Peyton property, which is has the attention now of the state's attorney, and Chuck has sent them various letters, and they said that they are cleaning up. We also had Steve go out and take some pictures, and as I went through there the other day to show my wife what it looked like, it looks worse than it did previous 2 times that I visited. It's over by Woodland School. The property where the guy is dumping garbage in his yard north of the landfill, the EPA is going to take him to court on September 15th, and he has to shut down his operation and have it completely cleaned up before that time. So I'm hoping that with Chuck's help and follow-up and the state's attorney and the EPA, that we'll get that property cleaned up also. And that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Holt. We'll move right on to election rules and legislation with Mr. Fannin, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one action item tonight, an amendment to the food ordinance. I have Melinda Hillman and Donnie Simmons here to answer any questions that you might have or give you an overview of it. Thank you.
You were provided with an update on the ordinance. We hadn't changed this part of the ordinance till 2013, and I'm going to defer to Donnie for any questions.
Basically, as a result of changes to the Illinois Food Sanitation Code July of last year, which adopted the FDA Food Code, our inspection process will be changing from a score-based inspection system to a risk-based inspection system. And as a result of this, there's a large portion of our ordinance that we have to remove because it is score-based. And then going through that, we made some minor changes in terms of cleaning a lot of stuff up that hasn't been done for a long time. So with that, I'll take any questions. Yes, he has.
I missed
Yes,
the
the
question
state's
and
attorney
answer.
had reviewed the document, and yes, he has. He approved it. He said everything was fine.
Any other questions? I'd make a motion to approve the amendment to the food ordinance.
Okay, and Mr. Station got the second.
I had a question.
Mr. Kestner.
Since you're changing this to a risk-based, does that mean you have to go out and re-inspect all these?
Well,
places?
we do re-inspections now based on violations, but basically what it means is we'll no longer issue a score associated with the violations that are found. We'll be looking at and documenting only risks. We'll be focusing in on risk-based violations as it pertains to foodborne illness.
Yeah. Okay.
So a facility won't be like getting a 90 or 80 any longer. They'll only be told the number of risks that they have in their facility.
In different categories. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? This, I think we can voice vote, can't we? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried.
Thank you. Appreciate it. The rest of my business was taken care of in the consent agenda with the appointments. We did discuss any possible changes to the standing rules. There were none brought up, so the standing rules will stand as they stand. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Fannin. Now we'll move right along to public property. Chairman Ingalls.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At our committee meeting, Chad reported on various activities on the buildings he has responsibility for. That management report was attached to the minutes, so you should all have that. Superintendent Cox was there but didn't have a written report, but did report on some activities at the Public Safety Complex and Law and Justice Center. Probably the most significant thing from the Mr. Carnahan's side was the building preparation at the Regions Bank facility, primarily getting it ready to be leased. Major item was an air conditioning unit that once it got warm enough, we found out its life cycle had passed, so that's being replaced. And there's other, maybe less significant, but numerous repairs that are being done there. With that, the one action item we do have is approval of that building lease. As you remember, we went through an analysis. John and Alina are to be thanked for doing that on whether it should be leased or sold. And the conclusion was pretty much overwhelming that it was in the best interest of the county to enter into a lease agreement with Mosaic. You should have copies of that lease agreement. They were distributed. Just some highlights. Basically, they're leasing use of what's commonly called the first floor, a little less than 5,000 square feet, as well as having use of the common areas in the lower level, things like restrooms, conference rooms, and storage area. The lease actually doesn't begin immediately. There's a period of delay to allow them to make repairs. They will do that, or really invest in improvements, and that also gives them a period of time to attempt to and hopefully sell their current building. They're responsible for real estate taxes, utilities, general maintenance of the interior. The county would, as most landlords, have responsibility for maintaining the exterior. There's provisions where they have to provide substantial insurance and indemnity to us. Really, it's pretty standard lease agreement language for commercial property. They have committed, and it's part of the lease agreement, and it's an addition or addendum to the lease, to do upwards of $80,000 in improvements. Some of it is demo, replacing the drop ceiling, new data lines, electrical services. They're actually going to remodel what was at one time a bank vault into restrooms, put in a kitchenette, break room, new carpet throughout the first floor, and they're estimating that could be in the neighborhood of $80,000. Those improvements will become part of the building and will be retained in the event that the lease is ever expired and the property returns to the use of the county. There's also provisions for us to continue to lease the two offices in the lower level for Veterans Affairs and the coroner's office for as long as we might need those. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would move that the lease with Mosaic be approved.
Okay, I need a second. Weller? Discussion? Carolyn?
Mosaic is a nonprofit, right?
That is true.
So are they going to be paying real estate taxes?
We are still the owner, and so we will not be
Yeah.
paying.
No, and I don't know that they would generate any income that would subject them to that, would they, Alina?
No, we actually will qualify for an exemption. I've been working with Shelley on those conversations, and so there won't
Right.
be any taxes due on the property.
Any other questions? Okay, with that, I'll call for a roll call, please.
Fieri. Yes. Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner. Ritter.
Yes.
Gerwin. Lovell.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Arbogast.
Yes.
Weller.
Yes.
Gimbel.
Yes.
Carly. Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
No.
So Heath.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Yoder. Yes. Fannin.
Yes.
That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Ingalls. And we'll move on to Sheriff Jail and License, Chairman Kestner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a good meeting. We had attended by the jail superintendent and the assistant jail superintendent and the chief probation officer. The probation quarterly report was accepted. The director of that department says all is going good. The state is still behind on reimbursement to that program. There's been some discussion, nothing settled yet regarding in the future drug court possibility as to the location of that. It may be Bloomington, but that's nothing settled there. We approved the liquor license amendment for Good Luck Martin Streeter due to a change in manager's position. We accepted the sheriff's semi-annual report showing civil process fees and FOI and insurance fees of $26,370. Mr. Cox and Mr. Inman presented the Cook County and federal report. We now have 38 inmates from the North Federal District, 13 from Central District, 34 from Cook County, and 60 from Livingston County, a total of 145 inmates. They have generated, due to their hard work over there, a total of $156,668.31 for that month. The September meeting for this committee has been moved to September 3rd, as I believe it is, due to Labor festivities at 3 p.m.
September 3rd is on a Sunday, isn't it?
It'd be the 6th. The 6th. We like it here so well, we want to come back.
Alina, you already have the meetings scheduled, do you not?
Yeah, it's on. Remember on Tuesday? Oh, we had something that said it was going to be in our Veterans Committee meeting. As moved, okay. Let's see what else. On the capital requests by the jail superintendent and assistant superintendent were prioritized. It's number 1, number 2, number 3. Number 1 would be kitchen floor at jails, what they feel should start with for capital request. Number 2, the chuck holes, they call them, in the cell doors for feeding the inmates. Number 3, maybe a full facility water softener. So we have passed on that until our September meeting, where we'll be getting more specific figures, and then we can take a vote on that with our committee. And that is my report,
Do
sir.
you want to make a motion for that liquor license amendment for Good
Yeah.
Luck Mark?
I'll make a motion that be approved.
Ritter, second. Any discussion on that? Okay, we can go ahead and voice vote that, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Now,
I'll make a
you have
motion.
another one, don't you?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we accept the sheriff's semi-annual report, which showed those fees of $26,370 in the first half of the year.
Can I have a second on that? Then we'll have discussion. Mr. Holt, second. Okay, now any discussion? Mrs. Gerwin.
Is the format and the content of that report, is that designated by statute, or is it just up to the sheriff to put together a report.
I believe that's required, 2 reports are required, semi-annual and annual.
Right.
Other than that, as to how the form looks, I don't know. I've got it here if you want to look at it.
I did look at it. I just wondered if it needs to have some kind of a, narrative to express any concerns, changes.
No. As far as the semi-annual report goes, it's all about the financials, the money in and the money out. If he chooses to add something else to that report, he can do so, but what's required is the financial information, how it's moving. The annual report is somewhat different, and that's where you get a lot more of your narrative and how things have changed.
Okay.
Do the financial aspects of this report look in line for a normal report? Is this as expected?
Mm-hmm.
I did not go back and compare it to prior years, Carolyn, but generally speaking, they always balance out. It tells you everything that they receive in, and it tells you everything that goes out. And so it does appear, as far as that's concerned, to be similarly written as other reports that we've received in the past.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, we'll roll call that, please.
Fieri. Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Dyson. Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Sherwin. Lovell.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Arbogast.
Yes.
Weller. Kimball.
Yes.
Carly. Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Yoder. Fannin.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. That it?
That
Mr.
concludes my report. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Kestner. Next is Administrative Committee, and right now I've been asked, I'm going to yield the floor temporarily to Mr. Killian. He had something that he wanted to do. So, Mr. Killian, now is your time.
On behalf of my wife and I, we've been working with if anybody's ever heard of ATF, kind of a big deal group. And we've been working with a winery in Southern Illinois, and we got a Route 66 Pontiac, Illinois wine. And so we both signed it. Mine's not in crayon this time, but this is for our county board chairman, Mr. Bob Young.
Well, thank you.
Should
I thank you. I guess he knows who would probably appreciate it the most, so he gave it to me. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we need glasses, or are we just gonna pass it on?
Yeah. Okay. To go along with my report, we had a contingent, you may have read about them in the paper, that came on the 10th of August, and they came through the courthouse here. They were looking to talk how county government is different or the same as it is in China. It was a very interesting tour. They were here all day or for a day or two in Pontiac, and I think the mayor ushered them around, had various activities for them. So it was a good thing to take part in. I think one thing that was not mentioned yet that should be, we have a ZBA meeting on August 31st to continue the wind farm ordinance discussion, and so I would certainly invite all board members to try to attend if you can. So if you can, I'd appreciate it. Okay, that's it for administrative, and we'll go right on to personnel. Mrs. Arbogast, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did not meet this month, but I see Linda is here. Do you have something that you want to say? Okay. So I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we'll go to information and technology. Mrs. Allen, Chair.
We met on the 8th of August. We reviewed John's monthly report. We also reviewed his capital requests. The committee worked with John to prioritize those requests. He reported that the jail cameras are in need of replacement due to age and condition. He said currently the system runs on 6 DVRs and have approximately 30 days of storage. We also reviewed his budget, and that ends my report.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Allen. Now, we're going on, and we'll introduce Chairman Station. But Chairman Station, would you go ahead and do the veterans, and then follow right up with the Recreation Committee, so I don't have to introduce you twice?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was a couple minutes late for the veterans, and the vice chairman, John Yoder, actually ran the meeting. I think it's only fitting that he give the report.
Okay.
Okay, if he has no report for the veterans, that's fine. I'll get right into the Recreation Committee. We met Wednesday morning. The bike path was the topic of discussion by 95% of the meeting. The committee voted to have Ed Lipinski move forward with applying for another grant without spending any money, working with Farnsworth and whoever we needed to. The last 5 minutes was kind of a rush. We talked about the warden's property. The committee would like to re-engage and go forward with possibly acquiring the agreement with the state to utilize the warden's property. That's all I have. Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Station, appreciate it. Okay, Housing Authority, Mr. Slagle, representative.
Thank you. We did not meet this month.
Okay. When is your next meeting?
That's a good question.
Okay. Probably coming up this next month or so. Okay. With that, is there any public comment?
Chairman, I do have a comment. On your desk, you'll notice that there was a yellow sheet of paper that had the county board term schedule on it. In the March primary of 2018, the top section are the positions that will be on running, and will need to pick up petition packets if they so choose to run. Also, the one that you just appointed, Pat Killian's position, will be up for election for a 2-year, unexpired 2-year term. On the back side of the sheet are the 3 main dates that you would need to be concerned with. The petition circulation begins September 5th, and that's the first day that we would have the packets ready for you to pick up. You can pick that up in our office. We'll have all the information in there. The filing period starts November 27th, and it goes through December 4th. So this is just kind of a heads up to start thinking about what you'd like to do or not do.
Okay, thank you. Question?
Yeah, I had a question and a request to the public. I understand that Atwell engineering trucks have been seen in the county, in the Avoca area, and they are associated with big developers, including wind and solar. So I guess my first question is for Chuck, whether you know anything about any pending projects or prospecting going on. And then the second would be a request to the public, you know, to share the information if they're aware of it. Okay.
Okay. Mr. Station?
Mr. Chairman, the Board of Health did have a meeting this month, a very brief budgetary meeting. And Melinda is still here. I wonder if we could get her to maybe briefly comment on that. I know our normal meeting is next month, and if anybody wants to attend, she can give you the date, if you wouldn't mind, Melinda.
Yes, the Board of Health officers met, preliminary, went over the budget I had prepared. We they want to keep the tax levy for the TV board and the public health board at the same rate. We've also had a discussion about the community health care program. I am looking into figures to see if we can possibly keep the home nursing and support it with health department funds. The homemaker, we would definitely have to close. There's no way we can support the full thing. We have some resources where we could refer for the homemaker. There is nothing currently for home nursing, which is public health nursing. It's not the Medicare certified home health, the acute care. It's chronic disease management. So that was the big discussion of our budget meeting, and I need time to really look and see what the fallout is and see exactly what is needed.
Okay, thank you. Before I ask for a motion to go into executive session, I'm going to ask for, I don't know what I'm asking for, your acceptance, I guess. I've noticed sometimes Stan has left executive sessions because he needs to be with his wife and there's really no place. I would like to ask our permission to allow her to stay in here during executive session.
I'll make a motion.
Is that anybody object to that? Okay. Mr. Weber?
Yes, sir.
You feel free to let your wife stay right here.
Very good. Well, she's an authority anyway.
I know that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
for the record, I actually feel safer with her in here because you never know what Stan's going to do at it, one of us, so.
Okay, with that, I'd ask for a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I did have a statement to make before we did anything. It was a public service statement that the city Streeter is doing a Streeter City Farmers Agricultural Development Symposium on August 26th, and it's at the Knights of Columbus Hall, 806 Oakley Avenue, Streeter, featuring Robert Easter. He's the president and professor emeritus at the University of Illinois, and he will be speaking. They're having a social meet and greet and a dinner, and it's $35 a ticket, and I just wanted to get that out.
Okay, anybody else? Can I have a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Weller, second by Engel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
The last one. Beatty? Bunning?
Yes.
Slagle?
Yes.
Ingalls?
Yes.
Steichen?
Yes.
Schaefer? Killian? Kestner?
Yes.
Ritter?
Yes.
Gerwin?
Yes.
Lovell?
Yes.
Allen? Arbogast?
Yes.
Weller? Gimbel?
Yes.
Carly? Holt? Mays?
Yes.
Heath?
Yes.
Weber? Young? Yoder? Fannin?
Yes. Do you think the others got the hint to stick around?